Engu Rei Part 1, where does the fragrance come from? Chapter 1, Entering the Palace. Ngong Rei, where the fragrance comes from. Ngong Rei Part 1, where the fragrance comes from. Chapter 1, Entering the Palace. Huang Luoyun was born in 1985. She loves design, studies plants and animals, is good at writing novels and articles, and is not bad at production. She is a designer currently working in their design company in Qinghai City. In addition, she also opened a design studio named Canli Studio. One day, Huang Luoyun came to the studio as usual. When she finished her design piece, she walked into the lounge. She then remembered the bottle of plants she had placed in the lounge and wanted to see how her cultivation was going. She picked up the bottle and looked at it carefully and found that the cultivation was a little different for what she thought. So she opened the book in the lounge that recorded the plant. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Chrysanthemum chrysanthemum is also called chrysanthemum chrysanthemum. So, after reading the book, she wanted to draw it and finally design it into an ornament she liked. However, when she was about to see the details of chrysanthemum chrysanthemum, the bottle unexpectedly left her hand and jumped up and down the window. She also jumped out of the window, and finally the bottle broke. At that time, as if something unexpected happened, a big pit formed on the ground for no reason. She was obviously about to get the bottle, but she was trapped in it and followed the bottle to another world. However, the world at that time was during the Qing dynasty in China. There is a place called the Forbidden City. Inside is the royal palace. There is an emperor, a queen mother, hundreds of concubines, maids, princes, princesses, eunuchs, guards, and some people we can't think of. Not long ago, this palace went through a draft. However, after fierce struggle, some women became somewhat promising palace ladies, some were directly eliminated, some became showgirls, and some were directly selected. The story goes like this. A woman named Tong Lai and a woman named Peng Guan are as close as sisters. They have been neighbors and have been close friends for many years. However, after entering the palace this time, Tong Lai found that Peng Guan's behavior was not the same as before. She could tell at a glance that she had ulterior motives and seemed to have bad intentions, but she was not sure whether that was the case. Finally, after several rounds of competition, Tong Lai became the palace maid and Peng Guan became the showgirl. Within a few days, Peng Guan met Tong Lai. For some reason, Peng Guan stimulated Tong Lai and the two palace ladies around her. Tong Lai, we are good sisters, but your behavior these days is wrong. Why do you always put on a bad look that is deliberately targeting me or other palace maids? Moreover, more than one day or two, I found that the palace maids around you are like you. They act very similar. I also found that it's hard to publicize what you do in private. It's really like you. I won't say much else. I have evidence for saying this. Did-a? Peng Guan clapped his hands loudly twice, and a big palace maid, two show ladies who were very close to Peng Guan came. Okay, the evidence is out. Let's take a closer look. Tong Lai listened and ignored her. She told the two palace maids beside her, although I used to be good sisters with Peng Guan, but now that she is like this, what else can we say? Follow me and leave quickly. Tong Lai spent 3 weeks after returning, thinking about how to deal with Peng Guan. She came up with an idea. She knew that there was a book of rules for showgirls in their palace, which said that showgirls should not plan things in secret, and it would not have any effect on the palace ladies anyway. So, she reported the matter to her superiors. Unknowingly, this matter reached the ears of the emperor. After some consideration, the emperor finally drove Peng Guan out of the palace in accordance with the rules. There are many maids like Tong Lai around Tong Lai, such as the two last time, Xianji and Liang Bao. Another example is Tuji, Yugong, Jilan, Yushi, Manin, Xiao Cue, etc. On this day, something strange and bizarre happened in the rooms of these 8 palace maids, and no one cared about it. Jilan, what happened to everyone today? Where have everyone gone? What happened? Yushi seemed to be lying lazily on the bed, but Jilan seemed particularly hardworking. Yushi, you have forgotten. Today is the day when our 8 palace ladies are going to gather. Jilon answered Yushi's words while tidying up the bed. Okay, everyone is left, and now we are the only 2 left. Not long after Jilon walked out, Yushi also followed to gather. The nun who was in charge of their group of maids was called Pai Dai Xiao, and she said she was going to start calling the names. Jingbao, Xianji, Tuhip, Xianggong, Yushi, Jilon, Manin, Xiaocui. Then he added, okay, are they all here? Yes, it seems they're all here. Everyone shouted. Xianji was dissatisfied. Why am I behind Liang Bao? Then Qiao Cui and Lanin asked, why did Yushi and Jilon also switch places? Mama Pai heard it and said nothing. After about 30 minutes and half an hour, they separated. Yushi was still with Jilon, Jingbao, and Xianji, Tuhip, Xianggong, Lanin, and Xiaocui. At this moment, something about Yushi struck Xilan's heart. Jilon noticed that Yushi was fiddling with the embroidered dough bag in the center of her body. This is actually nothing, but Jilon recognized that it was the relic of her deceased sister, and it was closely related to her sister's death. Her former sister was also named Jilon, but her name was not actually Jilon. After her sister died, she started to call her Jilon. Her previous name was Zhou Zhirhua. When she took a closer look, she discovered that the embroidered dough bag was stained with a large green spot, and the green spot had changed color and turned golden. The shape of this large blue spot is really unique, like a fish or a bird flying in the sky. She thought, what is her sister going to tell her this time? Give it to me. Can you lend it to me? She asked Yushi. Okay. Yushi gave her the embroidered dough bag without hesitation. After everyone had finished their work that morning, Jilon took the time to investigate her sister's death and the embroidered flower bag. She went to the dyeing room and asked who had dyed her sister's embroidered dough bag. After 3 inquiries and some money, she finally found out that it was dyed by Yi Xuanzi, a fatherless weaver who grew up with his blind mother. They said it was originally a colorful pattern of fish or birds, not what it is today. It must have been dyed again, and it still looks golden. It seems like there is something else going on. At this time, a young worker who was working hard in the dyeing room suddenly said, maybe he is some kind of folk dyeing master? After hearing this, Jilon immediately ordered Painter Foam, who could go in and out of the palace freely to investigate who dyed it. The final result surprised her. This dyeing master was actually Yushi's uncle, and she knew the meaning of the dyed pattern. Her sister meant, we are like birds in the sky and fish in the water. The birds in the sky are very rich, and the fish in the water have difficulty breathing. We are in the palace together, like birds in the sky, but like fish in the water, unable to breathe. So sometimes we also become rich, but sometimes we can't breathe. If this was the case, Jilon would not think that Yushi was the murderer. This time, Jilon went to investigate Yushi and found many suspicious things. 1. When did Yushi enter the palace? First of all, there's a problem. 2. There is something wrong with Yushi's age. 3. Yushi's working ability is very different from Yushi's usual. 4. The number of Yushi's visits is not clearly recorded. 5. Nothing Yushi did in the palace is recorded here. 6. It is said that Yushi often disappears, but rarely interacts with people. What happened to her is like a mystery and cannot be explained clearly. What made Jilon think that Yushi was the murderer most was another sister's relic, which was a mouth string. My sister calls it Ikuxian because when played, it makes people feel relaxed and happy. Mainly because Yushi actually played the same song as her sister usually played, exactly the same, as clear and memorable as her sister. As she listened, Jilon burst out. Give my sister her life. Give her my sister's life. Before Yushi noticed, Jilon cleverly started to cause trouble in the heavenly palace. Yushi was lying on the bed, and Jilon picked up a pair of large scissors as if she was about to stab him. Fortunately, Yushi was strong enough to dodge her attacks. But then Jilon immediately grabbed her head, and with lightning speed, she took out a rarely seen rui and violently hit Yushi's neck. If this happens, something big will happen and people will lose their lives. Fortunately, no one noticed around. Jilan first carried the body to the innermost part of the bed and then sorted out the large scissors that had been moved and the bloody Rui. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. So Lan Yin went out of the palace to find Yuxi. Since Huang Luoyan looked very much like Yuxi, no, not just a general resemblance, it should be said to be exactly the same. In this way, Lan Yin mistakenly identified Huang Luoyan as Yuxi. She saw that she was dressed so strangely. If she dressed up deliberately, it shouldn't be like this. She said, Yuxi, why are you dressed like this? What are you going to do when you leave the palace? Huang Luoyan, I'm not Yuxi Palace. What are you doing out of the palace? Then Lan Yin said, as long as you walk through the street in front, you will find the palace. Let's go quickly, otherwise we'll have to stay outside the palace all night. This street is Huayan Street. Everything here is so gorgeous, and of course the most important swallow is indispensable. Lan Yin discovered that Huang Luoyan didn't bring any money, so she spent money to buy Yuxi's palace-made clothes, headdress, earrings, and flower pot-soled shoes that all the palace ladies in her group had to wear. Huang Luoyan had no choice but to let Lan Yin do what she wanted. It didn't take long for them to cross Huayan Street and arrive at the Forbidden City and the Royal Palace. Huang Luoyan walked into the palace in person for the first time and was a little trepidatious. But it didn't matter. Under Lan Yin's leadership, she quickly returned to the palace maid's residence. She soon met Jilan, who immediately recognized that she was not Yuxi. I thought, no matter what, let's try her first. Jilan, I said, Yuxi, can you finish the work for me that I didn't finish today? I'm really busy today. A lot of work. However, the work is not here, but in the embroidery room and laundry room. Huang Luoyan. Okay, but when Jilan saw Yuxi leaving, she immediately moved the real Yuxi's body hidden on the bed. She moved out of the palace maid's residence, moved across the lawn and pond, and finally dug a hole in the most secret place on the rockery. She dug it quite deep and put the person in. The turf was just right. After the body was buried, he returned to the palace maid's residence as if nothing had happened. As for Huang Luoyan, he will be called Yuxi from now on. She walked to the embroidery room, but she didn't expect that the embroidery room was locked by a lock. So, she tried her best and finally opened the door with a silver hairpin on her head. She found Jilan's and Yuxi's embroideries and found that Jilan's only had a little bit left unfinished, while Yuxi's had a large amount unfinished. Huang Luoyan, she is also a very famous designer. She has a lot of research on embroidery on clothing, and she can also embroider some famous modern works. For such ancient works, she also hopes to embroider some unusual works. So, after her research, she finally finished the unfinished embroidery of both of them to her satisfaction. She rushed to the laundry again and found that the wind was blowing. It seemed that someone was causing trouble. Could it be that a ghost was breaking the wall? After her instant decision, she immediately ran out of the laundry and returned to the palace maid's residence. However, Jilan arrived before her, so she had no idea what Jilan had done. There are clear regulations on the housing of palace ladies. The youngest palace ladies generally share a room of 8 people. Young palace ladies or newly promoted palace ladies generally share a room of 6. More capable or favored palace ladies share a room of 4. And the most capable and favored palace ladies share a room of 2. Just like that, Jilan and she both fell asleep until Liang Bao appeared in front of her with a candle in her hand. She happened to have a nightmare, and now she woke up suddenly. In the dream, she seemed to be harmed by some palace maid. She struggled to escape several times, but was still harmed in the end. It was like being dead but still alive, waiting to be discovered. Liang Bao found Yuxi's shoes very strange, because most palace maids would not wear such beautiful flower-pot-soled shoes. Liang Bao has an indescribable feeling towards Yushi, who woke up with a fright today. Why do you sleep like this? Why do you sleep sideways? First you have to sleep upright, and then you have to sleep sideways, right? That's it. I'm sorry, I don't know why I sleep sideways. I remember what you said. Jilan was already fast asleep, and Liang Bao also returned to her room. Liang Bao and the bridegroom like to go out for a walk in the middle of the night or go to other palace maids' rooms, especially Liang Bao. Chapter 2 Pretty Girls' Thoughts. Chapter 2 Pretty Girls' Concern in this palace. Not all the maids who come into the palace are fine. Just like a beautiful girl, she was filled with heavy things from the beginning. In Liang Bao's house, there are a house full of people to take care of. Some are sick, some have no money to support themselves, some are disabled, and some are a burden. Therefore, in that family, the only choice is to invite pretty girls into the palace. So Liang Bao needs a sister. So who does she think she can rely on? Xianji? She get along very well on the surface, but once they get close, they will easily get into arguments and disputes. Head and hip? Neither side agrees with the other's opinion. Dilan? Yushi? I don't know what kind of medicine these two guys are selling in their gourds. Liang Bao doesn't get along with them very well.
Lan Yin.
She actually got along with her for a while, and it was good at first. Unexpectedly, we both started to dislike each other later. Xiao Cui? Xiao Cui prefers to get along with other palace ladies and often avoids her. So now only the draft is left, and the two of them are living a good life, so they have not changed their lives until now. It is really a peaceful time. But something was wrong in the past 2 days. Liang Bao felt that some of the people around her must be using deception to deceive her. But she thought about it and didn't dare to think any more. She felt that she could no longer live well with her intended husband. She didn't know why, so she could only let time flow by. Okay, everyone come and gather. Aunt Pai walked from the inner third courtyard to the outer third courtyard loudly. Aunt Pai's loud chattering could be heard in every room. Today, all 8 of them are here. Jingbao and Xianji still go to their sealing room and rendering place. Tuji and Xiangji go to their royal kitchen and weaving room. Yushi and Jilan go to their royal embroidery room and washing room. Lanin and Xiaocui go to their clothing workshop and monk decoration room. The printing office is directly opposite the rendering field. They walked in and started printing in the morning and switched to rendering in the afternoon. However, not long after the printing work started, Liang Bao became distracted, causing many of the printed papers to be unqualified, which irritated Xianji beside her. She asked her what was on her mind, and she said yes. She said that the family members were sick and disabled, and that the palace was very strange recently. Everyone seemed to have something on their mind. Was it related to other palaces? She said she couldn't figure out what happened to the letters she sent back, and she didn't know anything about her family's situation. She said she also had an indescribably strange, creepy, and permeable feeling. So, Xianji found out about her family's current situation for her, and also helped her print paper. Xianji told her that her family members were all well, but the one who was sick had improved a lot, but was somewhat disabled. She also said that she felt weird in the palace, maybe because she had too many things on her mind and no one else felt that way. He also told her to stay out of other palace affairs, as we were just maids who had just entered the palace. In this way, one afternoon, Tushi deliberately put a jar of honey made from golden Nanzi dates into a corner of the lawn on the rockery. Before she could put it in, she found a large pit that had been dug in advance. When she looked inside, a palace maid who looked exactly like Yushi died inside. What's going on? My head and hips were so frightened that my legs were weak. I suddenly collapsed on the ground, my whole body trembling, and I stepped back with stars in my eyes. She covered the lawn again, took the honey pot, and left. Chapter 3, Scapegoat. Chapter 3, The Scapegoat. After a while, Tong Lai arrived at the scene. Tong Lai realized something was wrong here and looked around carefully. A female body was found lying in the middle of the lawn, but her face seemed to have been disposed of by someone. So she immediately reported it to Aunt Pai, who also immediately reported it to her superiors. After a while, everyone gathered together. Everyone saw the scene and shouted loudly. However, only Tuji had something on her mind. She clearly saw Yushi dying, but now she saw a palace made of unknown appearance. There were 3 palace ladies in Ganshi-si, but they insisted that it was their Jean Rome who died. Because she disappeared for a while, she was lost. At that time, everyone searched for her for several days, but could not find her. Now it suddenly appears. There are also 2 palace maids who regard their Mangyu as the main target of suspicion because they have long been jealous of her, mainly when they get along with each other. Also, I did see that Jean Rongmanji and the others were the closest to each other at that time. In addition to Meng Yue, there are 4 other suspects, Zhang Xiali and Bao Furong from the Imperial Kitchen, and the guards Leng Qingling and Xiao Yanjunyu. The first person Jean Rong came into contact with was Xiao Yanjunyu, and they ate Yinrong cake together. The next person he met was Zhang Xiali, and Jean Rong asked him how he made lotus root and lotus seed porridge so delicious. Then I saw Bao Furong and asked her for advice on embroidery patterns. Later I saw Leng Qingling. I don't know what he was asking about, but it was related to asking for directions. The last person she saw was Meng Yu. Meng Yu said that she spoke her mind calmly and found nothing unusual. After rigorous interrogation, they all believed that Meng Yue could not escape his guilt. As a result, Meng Yu became the innocent scapegoat in front of them. Meng Yue was taken to the criminal center and sentenced, and then put in jail. Chapter 4. Meng Yu, behind Jean Rome. Chapter 4. Meng Yu, behind Jean Rome. Meng Yu, wake up. Wake up, I'm Yongli. Have they been cruel to you? Yongli on the side was very concerned about this. Yongli, they used severe punishment on me. Meng Yue panted. Tao Dai has always been very steady. Let's bring you some food. Meng Yue, what is this? Hibiscus flower cake and golden silk fungus soup. Tao Dai murmurred. Meng Yue had some doubts. Who did this? Yongli looked happy. Meng Yu, I did this. Meng Yue nodded. Well done. Yongli was very calm. We are here to help you investigate. Xiao Yanzhenyi's Yinrong cake is fine, but Zhang Xiali's lotus root and lotus seed porridge is poisonous. Bao Furong's is fine. Leng Qingling was just passing by, and Meng Yue became the scapegoat. Tao Dai looked serious. In this way, Meng Yue was immediately released and replaced by Zhang Xiali. Zhang Xiali was also wrongly accused, but within a few days he found out the real culprit, concubine Zhang Shu. After working on it for a long time, it was concubine Zhang Shu, who was borrowing Zhang Xiali's hand to get rid of the palace, made she thought must be eliminated. I don't know why poor Jean Rome offended concubine Zhang Shu. In this way, the relationship between Meng Yue, Yongli, and Tao Dai will become even better, even though Jean Rong is gone. Chapter 5, Xiao Yanjunyu, Xiao Yanchue. Chapter 5, Xiao Yanjunyu and Xiao Yanchue should know that Xiao Yanjunyu also came through a bumpy road. Her cousin Xiao Yanchue was once favored by many people and wanted to marry her, but she refused and finally came to the palace. At the beginning, everyone looked down on her or looked down upon her. However, she kept trying, working day and night. Finally, one day, the manager of Xiangyin Institute wanted to promote her. She found out and gave him many good things. She was busy with family matters at the time, but still persisted in her work. Promoted to Shengshifeng. However, something happened. This place is no different from other palaces. Not only do you have to be on duty day and night, but you also have to keep things safe. Banned books. However, she accidentally spread the banned book. Now it's okay. You have to be punished. If you haven't received half of it, you'll be punished by 1 degree. The reason was that someone reported her for picking flowers in the palace garden. This man actually did see someone picking flowers, but he didn't see clearly who it was. Later, Xiao Yanchue went to recuperate from her injuries. Immediately afterwards, she was assigned to the 4th Ganshi Institute. She found that it looked nice on the outside, but it was a less elegant, less concentric place of right and wrong. Now, Xiaoyan Junyu will also be assigned to Qianqi Fourth School because Xiaoyan Junyu is not only talented, but also a beauty. She has been practicing in the palace for many years, can endure hardships, knows skills that others cannot, and is very capable. The emperor's birthday is coming, and a banquet is going to be held. It has a different name every year. This time it is called the Liuxin Banquet. Among them, Xiaoyan Que was assigned to the musical instrument group as the Yueqin player. Xiaoyan Junyu was assigned to the dance group as the lead dancer. Chapter 6 Heartfelt Banquet. Chapter 6. On the night of Lu Axian's banquet, the stars were everywhere, and the streams of light were like arrows. Dang, dang, dang. The dance music started. Dancing Xiaoyan Junyu first saw Xiaoyan Que playing the piano, and then Xiaoyan Que accidentally saw dancing Xiaoyan Junyu. Both of them held back and said nothing. However, other dancers and Lucky felt that the relationship between them was unusual. After the dance, they all asked Xiaoyan Junyu what their relationship was. Xiao Yunjun said it was her cousin, then lowered her head and remained silent. Xiaoyan Que will continue to perform shows, and it is obvious that she has more affection in her heart. After these performances, the banquet began. Everyone on the side was dazzled. They had never seen so many dishes at once in their lives, and the aroma is fragrant and delicious. After they had eaten, Xiaoyan Junyu went out to watch the fireworks with the two dancers. She didn't go far when she heard two palace maids who didn't know where they came from. They said in a very unruly tone, "Look how Bao Furong has been doing these 2 days. Has her heart started to itch again? How did she train us 10 months ago?" Ling Yuan also said that her heart was knotted at that time. She was so stupid that she couldn't do anything about it. She always put on a stinking air, which made her still inseparable from her shell. 5 months ago, she left the disciple she needed most next to her most capable teacher. Unexpectedly, she was really taught a lesson. A month and a half ago, she asked us to practice palace rules all day long. Qianxiao didn't want to accept her trick, so he just followed her hard. As a result, I don't need to tell you the result. After a pause, another person said, "I heard that concubine Zhang Xu seemed to have calmed down a bit in the past 2 days. I don't think so. She just looks like this." Ever since concubine Zhang Xu was found out that she had killed Jin Rong, or that she had relied on Zhang Xiali to kill Jin Rong, she could not escape the blame. Xiao Yunjun said, "Which of your palace maids dare to say such rebellious words?" Bao Furong is an expert in embroidery and is your instructor. She has worked hard to teach you for so many years, and you actually, they didn't say anything, and took Xiaoyan Junyu away with them. Chapter 7, The Capable Four. Chapter 7, The Capable Foursome looked around and walked from the quaint Qianqi Fourth Institute to Jinhe Sixth Institute. Although Jinhe Palace is a poor place, it is just a matter of neglect and careless placement of items without cleaning. Moreover, the people living there are of high status and do not know how to clean up, and there is nothing good in this palace. Another example is Jinling Palace, Jinde Palace, Jinmi Palace, and Jining Palace. These palaces are not as annoying as Jinhe Palace, or make people stay away. These palaces are very important, and they also closely surround the Jinhe Sixth Courtyard. They played an important role in Jinhe Sixth Academy. This is the legendary. 5 palaces and 6 courtyards. Jinhe Sixth Courtyard is where the nuns and maids live, and it looks classic and elegant. The reason why Xilan was able to hide everything was because she was Xilan's younger sister, Zhou Zhirua. They live in a wealthy family with power, wealth, and a scholarly family background. However, she knew that she had only been in this family since she was sensible. It turned out that she was not from this family. She was very poor at first and did not have enough to eat. She lived hard every day until they took a fancy to her. She was amazed as soon as she walked in. This family adopted her as their adopted daughter. When they heard she said her name was Zhou Zhirua, they took even more care of her. No matter how well-intentioned this family was in nurturing her, they were actually using her as a pawn behind her back. But she foolishly obeyed, and she was indeed a good chess piece. Her sister Jilan is actually the softest person in her family. Before entering the palace, she seemed very weak. She took good care of her sisters and cared about them all. He is such a person who basically obeys everyone. But she would rather be the first to protect her sister from harm and would rather be the first to donate blood to the victim. Jilan also has a father, mother, an older brother, and a younger brother in her family, all of whom have been trained intensively. They asked her to find out the cause of her sister's death, and this was the result. After her brother learned the news, he quickly informed his family. They tried to transport Yushi's body out of the palace, and they succeeded. Jilan's father is a minister of Jiangxi province. Her elder brother is the leader of the Imperial Guard, and her younger brother is a poet. There were two things that made them feel embarrassed. The first is that there is an identical Yushi. Who knows if they are twins, but it is unlikely. The second is that another body was found in the lawn, that of Jin Rong. Everyone was very nervous at that time. Jilan was fine on the surface, but she was scared inside. However, no one knows that the head and hip also know this. Yushi's ability is obvious to all, and Jilan is extremely talented. Lan Yin's words were her specialty at that time. Qiao Cue has the fastest progress, the most mature thinking, capable, and hardworking. Therefore, the 6th Academy of Jinhe chose Yushi, Jilan, Lan Yin, and Qiao Cue among the 8 palace ladies. Member of the Mighty Four.